Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Happy Thursday.
Hello.
We are bringing you a less planned live episode of GovConHacks. If you're new here, I'm your host, Ashley Duwel. I'm sorry I sound so nasally. My beautiful co host, Natasha Velez.
What up?
And we have been inundated the last couple of weeks with questions related to the new executive orders. What do they mean? What do I do now?
Yeah.
So we ask you to bring your questions. This has to be an interactive session.
Yeah.
What you do now completely depends on, what executive order affects you. For example, what industry you might be in, what agencies you have contracts with. So we will do our best to answer all the questions we can.
Mhm.
Keeping in mind that none of this should be considered legal advice. I try to stay as far away from politics as possible,
Mm.
except when it concerns myself and those that I work with. So we have to pay attention to a few things.
Right.
Um, I think the biggest question that I've gotten lately at first, and it's kind of because things are happening so fast. I
Right.
feel like the question the first half of the week is different than the question the second half of the week. What are your top questions?
Well, will my SBA situation change? Will my certs change? Will that be taken away? I think the DEI portion of it really scares everyone because we're talking about equality in a different way now. We're talking about if we provide preference to one group, is that providing discrimination against another? And it's a good topic. I mean, it's a fair trade. Um, we see this come again from the 8A situation. Now we have to justify how we've been discriminated in 8A. Um, so a lot of people are kind of worried. Will those certifications go away? In many cases, I believe last week we were all talking and stating how, like, that's not a thing. Executive orders can't get rid of your certifications, and that's not his justification. Trump can't, just sign an executive order and eliminate that. But things this week have changed drastically. So who's to
The
say?
DEI one, let's sit on that for a moment because there's a lot of different ways that might affect our audience, right? It could
Yeah,
be that you are a consultant in DEI. Maybe you have a contract
right,
for consulting in DEI. You may have gotten a stop work order.
right.
Um, it could be that you are an employee as part of a program or a contractor as part of a program where that funding is coming from the DEI initiative. It could
Yeah.
also be that you just got your DBE certification.
Hmm.
You're a small disadvantaged business, and you're wondering how that affects what the goals were. Previously, it was a 15% goal that the Biden administration had put into place, but we can't just, Trump's executive order didn't just take that away. It
Right,
reverts back to the 5%, which is what it was before.
right.
And really, it's only been, what, 2 years maybe?
Yeah.
That. So there's really not that much of a change. Now, what can you do if you are one of the in one of these situations? Because
Mhm.
maybe you got into government contracting because of that goal, for example, and the only contracts you have are related to that goal. Well, it doesn't necessarily, unless it's a DEI contract, of course.
Yeah,
And, you will have gotten a stop work order if you were going to, right?
right.
But it may just be that the next time that contract comes around again, it will not have that preference for DBE or whatever the case, what have you. Now, are there other situations? Of course.
Yeah.
You have something specific and you're, not comfortable talking to it talking live about it, certainly reach out to us. We're happy to help you
Mhm.
navigate. And I will say a big shout out to who has helped me keep up to date on all of this. If you are not yet following the Small GovCon blog, guys, please do so.
Yeah.
These things are changing, and I gotta say, it's hard to figure out who's credible. You open up a link to do some research, and all these ads are popping up, and you're really just more frustrated and more confused because it's essentially clickbait, right? So We want to help answer your questions. I see you there. Drop them in the chat, please.
Yep. And I
Let's
think like we also have another good. I've been on the Federal Register, and I use that just to kind of read further into the executive orders, because there's many
Mhm.
times, in many cases, you hear these. The titles are meant to be scary, right? They're meant to
Right.
be you're like,
Let's
oh,
make
what's
you
that
click.
mean?
Right.
Yeah, so they're scary. But if you do your due diligence, if I go into, like, for instance, the Federal Register, I can see all the executive orders per day that the Trump administration is putting in effect. And I can read what that entails. And honestly, from the title to the description, I feel a little bit more at ease, because I'm like, okay, I have a better understanding of what's happening. And really, I always tell people, arm yourself with knowledge, educate yourself, understand what's going on and what's happening, and then adjust accordingly. And that doesn't change in business, in this administration or any administration. It happens consistently. So you always want to keep your finger on the pulse. You always want to have a strategy, and you want to be agile. And most of you are small businesses, so you have that capability to be agile and switch if necessary. So if your main, customer was DEI, who is your new customer? Money didn't go away. It's just being shifted.
Let's talk for a moment about HHS, because that was one that I am not as privy to. I've had a little time to break down the whole DEI thing.
Yeah.
But as far as HHS and how does that affect, contractors that might have contracts with HHS, because that place is massive. That agency
I
is
know. Well, it's the HHS, it's the NIH, everyone that's, really kind of,
CDC,
yeah, everyone in
IHS,
any sort of healthcare right
SAMHSA,
now is being
all of
heavily scrutinized. So there are some work orders that are being paused. There's some stop work orders and things of that magnitude on contracts. And it's not that, we're going to eliminate it, right? We need them. But ultimately, it's re strategizing some of the budget that was put in place for certain research. So they're really just kind of analyzing and deciding, is this something that's worthwhile to continuously go after, or should we pull that budget? And should we redirect it in something else? So it's just, again, strategy and alignment with different initiatives. So I did see that. We also got a lot of, the grants portion where that stopped for a minute and then came back. So that's been, put back in place where grants are going. And what I believe is he's going to start looking through each grant and the budgets that have been forecasted for that and analyze that one by one. So it won't
Yeah,
be
when they
something
stopped federal assistance, everybody
everyone
lost
lost their
their
mind.
minds. That was probably
Yeah.
the worst of the influx, as far as my inbox was literally on fire.
They were like, oh
You
my
think about your
God.
NGOs, all of your resources that are
Yep.
federally funded, all of the R&D. Now it
Mhm.
didn't affect SBIR, but
No.
they were like, hold all federal assistance programs. That
Nonprofits
affected your
ultimately,
staff.
and then
That
of course
affected
research.
your
Mhm.
if you have marketplace insurance, like literally everything.
Yep.
So a federal judge said, no, you can't do that,
Mm.
and went back on the and I'm sorry guys, I'm obviously under the weather tonight and I'm
Yeah.
starting to lose my train of thought. Anyway, a federal judge said, no, you can't just pause all federal funding. That's
Yes.
going to cause unseen repercussions. So basically he rescinded it.
Right. Right. And
So
so I think that'll just be more of a slow.
might be a little trickle,
Yeah.
they might pause program by program to review. Like, we really don't know what's going to happen yet. No, none of us have a crystal ball. But between Federal Register and then small GovCon blog, just make sure that you're getting it from a trusted resource, because you might not be getting the whole story, especially if they have a vested interest to, sway you one way or another. If they're
Right.
using it to try to sell you something, it's really hard to kind of sift through the BS out there. People jumping in your inbox trying to scare you about things.
Yeah.
So, like, we
Yeah.
understand.
And it's never good to make decisions out of fear. I will
Right.
say that. There is a lot of confusion, a lot of people that are frustrated, a lot of people that are worried. Take a deep breath. Maybe take a little break off the internet, or off the news for a little bit, right? Um,
Yeah, turn it off for a little bit.
yeah, take a little
Ooh,
breather. My husband reminds me occasionally, like, "Why don't you just turn that off instead of doom scrolling," right? So, you want to take a deep breath, take a step back, and don't make decisions out of fear or emotions. That's the worst thing you can do with your business. Your government contracting business is still going to be viable. It's still going to be beneficial. You're still going to make money. It's just transitioning from one area to another, one agency to another. If it's going from federal to state, wherever it goes, we just got to follow the money, right? That's
And
really
here
what that is.
here's the thing about, let's just say hypothetically, all the federal employees, he really does cut down. It's not like that work is gonna go away.
No,
Where do you think those needs are gonna get fulfilled? Because the needs are still gonna exist. It's gonna
right,
result in more contracts, most
right.
likely. So, um, there's more than one way to think about this. So I challenge you. And if you already have contracts, like one of the big questions I got was the GSA.
Oh, yeah.
Well, but here's the thing is even after GSA put the pause or put the brakes on, that was exclusionary of GSA schedule awards. So there are exceptions to these rules. They don't necessarily apply to the masses.
Right.
Any questions from anybody? I don't see any questions yet. If you guys have any concerns, you heard something out there, maybe we haven't touched on yet, please let us know. Let's talk about it.
Mhm.
Drop them in the comments and we'll put them up on the screen and discuss.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. Another one is keeping yourself completely involved in your government contracting, rather than the news, to pull off of that again. But instead of that, just again, Federal Register, um, us, your favorite podcaster, people that are reliable sources, get that information, and just don't make any quick decisions right now. I mean, there's just a lot of changes going on. Just
Good
calm.
point. I want to elaborate on that. Let's talk about what do you do if you're in an industry or a program or with an agency that is affected by this.
Mm.
At the end of the day, go back to the basics,
Yep.
do the market research.
Yep.
Who else buys what you sell?
Yep.
This is your opportunity to diversify.
Hmm.
And here's the thing is that those of us that have been in this industry for a while, like Natasha and I are used to this. It
Yes.
happens every time the president changes. We got a
Mhm.
little break there when we had Obama doing 2 terms in a row, but it happened when Biden was, it switched from Trump to Biden. It's happening
Yeah.
now that it switched from Biden to Trump. So, I mean, it's really just a matter of this is what'll make my job hard. It really doesn't necessarily affect the proposal side of the house, but I have to track these trends, right? I'm sitting there.
Our regulations are
Oh,
changing.
yeah, that's right. You'll have new
Pricing
regulations.
changes, regulations change, your P-wins
That's
were
a good
changed.
trade-off. I'll take it.
There's some in there where now I gotta reread my FAR, but
Like you said, we got to track where the money's going now. So it's not, unless you are a DEI consultant, it's not that the government's just going to literally stop buying your thing, right?
yeah, that's true.
It
We had
just
a
might
really good
be that
discussion about that earlier.
different customers, are at play. Some might lose room in the budget for that thing.
Mhm.
Some might gain room in the budget for that thing. And all of this is really dependent on what it is that you do.
Yep.
So that's why I'll be following the market research at least quarterly for all industries, just to make sure that our fingers are on the pulse of the shifts. And maybe we'll have some episodes about that as well, so that you guys can also see the trends. But
I like what you
definitely
said
diverse.
about that in regards to, the layoff of federal employees. We had a conversation of that earlier with another client, and they were like, "Well, what do we do?" And I was like, "We have a hard time staffing." And I'm like, "Where do you think those federal employees are gonna go?" You know what I mean?
I'm already seeing it on LinkedIn. I'm
Yeah, if
already
there's a
seeing it.
need, I mean, it's just a change of hands, right? They're gonna jump off from being a federal employee to being a government contracting employee. So it's going to be a change of hands. That's all that really is. We always call it like butts and seats, or the switching of hands. So that's what that essentially is, really. The government contractors are going to be in charge of staffing a lot of things and a lot of initiatives. Along with that, we had a pause in the GSA schedule a little bit. And then we started to see opportunities today realign, and it was different. It was Custom Border Patrol. It was DHS. It was different initiatives and budgets being put out into place that weren't forecasted previously. So it's not necessarily that there's nothing. It's just that those initiatives and those directives are being changed.
That is also a good point. Thank you for reminding me. Something else that you can do rather immediately will be make sure you're checking the forecast.
Yeah.
Check the forecast, see if what was on there before is still on there, if that's changed at all, if it applies to you, whether that's by NAICS keyword, however your agency allows you to look. And I know that they can leave a lot to be desired. Some agencies don't update those very often. But it is one way. And at the end of the day, you do always have a resource with your small business people. So if you have a contract in an agency, and this applies to you, they are there to act as a resource as well to kind of, explain what's going on. Hopefully, maybe give you some updates as time goes on.
Yeah, and if they don't answer you right away, just know that they're going through a lot right now too.
They are. Yeah, they're receiving a lot of crazy emails.
Yeah. So just have patience. If they don't get right back to you, they have a lot of emails. They have a lot of people asking questions, and they have questions themselves. So just be patient.
Yes, everybody is a little on edge recently. And here's the thing is, if you're doing outreach and whatnot with all the shifts that are going to be taking place, you're probably going to be getting a lot of dead emails as folks move between agencies, as folks move from government to industry.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to hire someone on your acquisition team, I mean, there are plenty on LinkedIn that are putting out some feelers right now from 1102 and
let's talk about
and all different types of positions and acquisitions. So they already know the FAR.
Yes. And they have their clearances.
And clearances. Yeah. So that's ever been a barrier to entry. So start thinking strategically, not, oh, I can't. How can I?
Amen. I also want to bring up events. This is something else I've also noticed.
Oh, yeah.
So like HHS, NIH, DIE, obviously, like a bunch of them started canceling events, so they had all these small business conferences they were attending, and now they've been on pause, like their funding and their travel and their expenses and literally everything has been put on pause. So they're not allowed to travel and go to some of these events. They've been canceled.
Right.
And not showing. So you may find it a little harder to be able to reach these agencies right now. Again, patience, but a lot of them are not showing. I know we are registered for the SBA conference and some agencies have canceled.
Yeah, that's actually kind of a bummer.
I know. It's a little bummer. And
the agencies go for free though, guys. That's the thing. So them canceling isn't really that big of a deal. But for those of us in industry who are small and spent money to go to see them, sometimes it's a little bit more of a deal. But don't let that be a deal breaker. There's going to be plenty of primes there that you're going to network with. Make sure that when you go to the conference, if you do have tickets like we do, we will be there, by the way. Come see us. Make the most of it. So instead of I can't, how can I? Well, what you can do is you could print out that floor plan. You can, based on your market research, target and circle and kind of design your plan of attack, if you will, to make sure that you get to meet the people that you want to meet, the primes that might have opportunities for you, especially if you're new or you're looking to diversify.
Yeah.
Because all of your revenue can't come from just one agency or just one organization.
I know to get used to them because you've built a relationship.
Right.
This might be your chance to switch up. I think we learned this as government contractors when COVID happened.
Yes, we did.
We had to pivot so quickly to
my IT clients were getting PPE contracts during COVID.
Like people were making masks. Like we were just Whatever
It's
you,
crazy.
and in fairness, you followed the money. And I'm all for strategy. I'm all for, sticking to your niche, but I'm also for eating, right? So I like food. So let's,
We love
I
food.
got a family to feed, right? So follow where the money's at. And if there's some way that you can be of added value in a different industry, then have at it. This might be that moment for you to kind of plug into that. We found a lot of people switched and diversified during that
Oh
time.
yeah.
So this is definitely going to be that time again, to switch it up and see where the money's going in your industry, and if not, in a different industry that you can find comparable to your industry.
Absolutely. And like this happens, kind of similar things happen. Think about if you're in the north, right? And you're
Yeah.
a landscaper. You're probably plowing snow during the winter months. You're not doing much landscaping. It's
Right.
really not a whole lot different than that.
Yeah.
So I know it can be overwhelming when, you're seeing all these, because everybody's gonna jump on the bandwagon of the hashtags.
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna want to increase their visibility and exposure and get in front of you. You're gonna feel overwhelmed. There's a lot of mixed messages coming in,
Yeah.
but you've got some great resources already here throughout this episode that you can kind of refer to. We are also available to you guys too. I'm
Yeah.
going to give one last call for questions because we are down to 8 minutes. And I'm
Yeah.
trying to think if there are any of the executive orders we didn't cover. Let me pull
Well,
up the newsletter here.
I got a couple.
I had a bunch of them in bullet points.
I think we have like 38.
What's that?
We have 38 just today, so I don't know. Securing our borders, which obviously means that money is going to be going to like Custom Border Control, Department of Homeland Security, things like that. So obviously, things of that magnitude. We also have a lot of defense, foreign advisory, controlled applications, IT, and cybersecurity is really big. So there's a lot of money kind of going into that as well. So we can
Yeah,
kind of,
there was a battle. I think there was a battle this week or last week maybe,
Mhm.
about he proposed a $5 billion AI budget, and
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yes,
there was
yes.
an argument of where's that money coming from.
AI is big, so I
It
always
is
tell people,
definitely. I mean,
get it.
I understand. We do have to understand it,
Yes,
but
get ahead of it.
there's
Get
arguments on both sides. I get it.
yeah.
Ending affirmative action requirements. So there was this is part of the DEI, I believe.
Right.
It removes the need for federal contractors to have affirmative action programs, which previously encouraged hiring of a diverse workforce.
Mhm.
So now hiring decisions should be based solely on merit. That
Which
was
I feel
another
like
piece of
that's fair. I mean, it doesn't change a whole lot for you, right? It's just now you don't have to have it in your handbook, but you can if you want to. It doesn't mean you have to get rid of it, right? There's companies that
You're
are
just not going to get in trouble if you don't.
yeah.
Right.
So that's all the difference that is for you, in regards to that. And so, that's an update with your HR team and a conversation of whether you want to keep it or not.
Now, if you're using outsourced HR payroll, like they're probably already on it. But if that's up to you as the business owner, just something you want to be cognizant of if you haven't outsourced that part of your
No,
business.
absolutely. I would absolutely agree. So, and then I think other than that, I didn't see anything else that would be like heavily affected.
Yeah, so there's no effect yet. I mean,
We had the American Buy Act, which, that holds true to, we stopped it for a little bit, then we brought it back.
Buy American.
The Buy American Act.
American.
It says it in the name. You can't be like, what does that mean? Like, we're pushing to buy American products over foreign, products. So the preferences, and you will see this in your solicitations. If you see the Buy American Act, it means that whatever hardware they are soliciting, they want it from an American source that manufactured and shipped it in the United States of America.
So I guess that would then affect contractors as it relates to their pricing if they are getting any part of their final product
Right.
from any of the countries that have increased tariffs,
Correct.
make sure that you reflect that in your pricing
Pricing.
on your new contracts. Oh, so on that note, let's say that does affect somebody's pricing and they're in the middle of performance. I read an article and it was really, really good. It was actually probably just a LinkedIn post rather than a whole article,
Mhm.
but it was pointing out the specific terminology
Mhm.
that you should use. Basically, if you are in a position that your contract, and I'm paraphrasing here, is sort of halted, you don't
Mhm.
want that to affect your performance record. So
Right.
be sure to make sure that the powers that be include, in accordance with executive order ABCD or whatever it is, so
Right.
that it can't be looked upon in the future as anything that was of your wrongdoing or your negligence, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So
Right.
I will find that and I'll post it in the group.
Oh, that would be good.
Yeah, it was a really good piece of advice from a Govy. So I gotta say, if you are on this and watching and
Mhm.
you're not integrated with the acquisition community on LinkedIn, you are missing out.
Yes.
Um, it's a professional network. We love our Facebook groups and we love everybody in it. But at times like these, it definitely is helpful, to make sure that you're just on top of these things, right? So,
Yeah, you have a lot of federal agencies reporting things on LinkedIn and having those open
right.
communications. You have a lot of contracting officers kind of speaking up. You see a lot of contracting officers now starting podcasts and giving advice, and
Yeah,
it's a good open community. So yes, Facebook is great, but let's also transition to a more professional environment. And there is LinkedIn, and I think we have played with the idea of starting a GovConHacks group within LinkedIn. So that's something that's still to come. Um, and then, of course, some webinars and things of that magnitude and posts and stuff like that to keep you all updated, especially now with the constant changes. So we're happy to do that too.
absolutely. And on LinkedIn, we do have a new podcast page that's been creating the events. So be sure to follow that. You'll see what's upcoming.
Mhm.
Subscribe and tap the bell for notifications here on YouTube if you prefer to get your content on YouTube. That way you're notified when we go live. So we are going to 8A not next week, the week after.
The week after.
And so we're not necessarily going to wait until 7 p.m. to show you guys at home, just what that conference is like. New Orleans is pretty cool. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. So we might just go randomly live throughout the entire event.
Yeah,
From
I think it could
Zoom.
be a whole day.
Yeah, I might just set it
Fun.
up. Just set it up and see how the magic works. I mean,
And see what it looks like to be at an actual conference with tons and tons of people there, primes, capability statements, engagements, conversations, how the magic works. That
the
actually
marketing, like, you should see the marketing budgets of some of these booths, guys. You would
very
be, like,
nice.
mind blown. They're all animated, and
Yeah,
it's wild.
mine's ain't that cool.
I have to say the best booths I've ever seen so far,
Mhm.
definitely Soft Week. Definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
They had some really cool innovation set up. Some, like, virtual reality stuff, like, simulations. It was the
Mhm.
coolest thing, and you could walk up and play with it. It was
Yep.
ex
It's is like that too in Orlando.
I
They
haven't been
are
yet.
oh, it's hectic. That is one that you plan multiple days to attend
Yeah.
because it's so large. Everyone from all around comes to ITSEC. Even international agencies come to ITSEC. So that is a simulation, and there's a lot of software developers, a lot of innovation, a lot of VR and AR and all that stuff is there. And you can, I went in and I got to like pretend I was a pilot with the VR glasses and they have the actual guns and everything. So you get to go through the experience of what these people are going through in training, these military people. So it's very humbling and very cool. And it's a hell of an experience. But as you're
Demonstration.
demoing these fun simulations, that's also how they're selling those agencies on it because they get to touch and play with it, and get to see
Right.
it
It's
work.
really interesting. when, to go to soft week and see the sales actually taking place.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
And these guys they are serious. They are
Yeah,
so serious. So I'm a little bummed that we're not going to have as big of an agency presence because of
yeah,
the travel situation, the
yeah.
reduction in the travel budgets, but we're still going to make the most of it.
Hey, you
I'm
still got
still
New Orleans.
Yeah, we're gonna be in New Orleans, so we're still gonna network with the primes. I'm still gonna map out my attack. There's just a couple booths I'll be crossing
Yeah.
off the list if they don't show up. That's all.
And I'll be wearing flats this time.
Yeah, we still got matchmakers, and I definitely saw some of my clients do have matchmaking sessions with
Yes.
some of these agencies. So not all of them are bailing out.
Yes, just the ones that have pauses on them, but there's so many
Right.
other agencies, folks.
Right.
So it's worth it.
Yeah, definitely worth it. I still don't see any questions. You guys are way so quiet. It's kind of
I
freaking
know.
me out considering the way my inbox was blowing up the last 2 weeks.
Well, we see that we have a lot of watchers.
So I know. You get lurkers.
Listening.
You're
I like
lurking.
lurkers. Get it. Get it.
That's all right. You can lurk. You can chime in. Whatever makes you happy. But know that we are here if you have any questions.
Hi, Ron. See, Ron knows. He's like, you know what? I'm going to take that step. Hello.
I find it interesting Ron doesn't have his last name on there. Bummer. Hi, Ron.
Ron is great. That's it.
All right, everyone. Do not sweat. Just pivot. Watch the.
Everyone say hi to Ron.
Everyone say hi to Ron. Hi to John.
Oh my goodness.
So don't sweat. Just pivot. Track the spending. USAspending.gov is a free site any of you can use. I'm going to go in there once a month and just search away what change it. Yes, I am. I am a nerd. That's okay. Don't judge me. All right, ladies and gents. I'm hitting the hay. You guys have a great rest of your weekend. We'll see you back here same time next week.
Bye.
Bye.